Hi, I'm Dr. Jaime Intro, an author, an educator, and a wounded healer. I'd like to tell you a little bit about a problem, a solution, and an opportunity. First of all, we know that there is a huge problem related to child sexual abuse in society. It's widespread and there's widespread denial. And their impacts, if untreated, are immeasurable individually and societally. There's a solution, the beginning with survivors working through their experiences and becoming more whole and able to be resources for others and be more freed up individually. And there is an opportunity, which I'll tell you about in the next clip, about a course called If You Want to Fly Higher, You Must Be Lighter. Let me tell you briefly about myself. I've been an educator for most of my life, and in 2002, when I was teaching teachers at the University of San Diego, the memories of my own abuse as an adolescent by a priest came bubbling up with all the news in Boston about clergy abuse. And from there, I went through an intense process of deconstructing and reconstructing. At one point, I had PTSD, had incredible, anxiety attacks and flashbacks. And in that process, I needed to rebuild. I needed to ask deep questions of who am I, what do I want, and what's my purpose. And I brought my background, professional background, together with my own personal healing to understand much more and become a resource for others. And so I understand there's an expression, follow no one who has no scars. And so I can say from my own experience personally and professionally, I have an understanding of the healing and transformation process related to abuse. What we now know is in society is that it's widespread. There are at least 39 million adults who have experienced child sexual abuse. The numbers are 1 in 3 young women and 1 in 6 young men have abuse experienced before their 18th birthday. And that's probably very underreported. We know that most abuse happens in with familiar people, not the 10% stranger danger. And this is widespread in institutions, whether it's churches and schools and other settings. And so the responses have been, in the past 20 years, for people just to break the silence and often then working with others to force accountability through institutions. And so you've seen lots of lawsuits, whether it's through the churches or scouts or sport teams like Penn State that's come up recently. There are a lot of casualties and not so many resources. There's been a lot of attention to the problem and to the initial shock, but not so much to the healing, to the integration, to the rebuilding. We know the consequences are powerful when untreated. That nearly 50% of women in prison report they were sexually abused as children. More than 60% of first teen pregnancies are preceded by child abuse. That 70 to 80% of reported excessive drug and alcohol use is related to child sexual abuse. And it impacts work performance, and it impacts the choices people make about their health and risk behaviors. It leads to early death. It leads to all kinds of problems when untreated. And we also know that after disclosure, that there's a 35% reduction in doctor office visits. And so there's tremendous help available just by being able to speak with others. And there's even more healing and possibilities when people can share with others. We know that there are physical impacts, there are emotional impacts, and we can even say there's spiritual impacts. That people may experience a kind of soul death. And certainly there's impact in relationships which are both physical and intellectual and emotional and spiritual. That the people have blocks when it comes to intimacy and trust and confusion about sexuality and all kinds of ways that we disconnect from ourselves and from other people. So the impact is widespread. It's a societal problem. The new solutions are going to come from and with survivors. And so I invite you to click on the next video. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about a course. If you want to fly higher, you must be lighter.